everyone, my name is Sally McFadden, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Huntsville, Alabama. The name of my blog is thepolkadotlife.com, and that's where you can find all kinds of things. You can look at digital catalogs, you can see the latest news, and you can get all the measurements and supply lists for projects and get all kinds of inspiration there. So let's flip the camera down and get started on today's project. This is the bundle we will be using today, but before we get started, I wanted to let you know about the Designer Series paper sale. It starts August the 6th and it runs until August the 31st. You will be able to get select Designer Series papers at 15% off. So that is a really good time to stock up on any of the papers that are featured in the sale. Now, any of those specialty papers, they are not included. And if you're a demonstrator, things that have not been released to the public are not included in that sale. But these are the packages that are included. Bright and Beautiful, Countryside Inn, Country Woods, Full of Life, Lily Pond Lane, Mediterranean Blooms, Perennial Lavender, Take to the Sky, Thoughtful Journey, To Market, Unbounded Beauty, Wildly Flowering, and Winter Meadow. So those are all really beautiful papers. Most of them, I think maybe all of them, are featured in the annual catalog and or have been carried over from a previous catalog. Now, these are just those packages of paper. It's not cardstock or, like I say, specialty papers or anything like that. That is just a great way to get some of those papers that you saw when this catalog first came out and you just couldn't buy everything all at once. So this is a great way to save a little bit of money. Also, I wanted to remind you about bonus days that you earned those certificates in July. They need to be redeemed in August. And so check your emails, go back and get that email that I told you to save and put in that code that's on there. And then that will take your allotted amount of money off of your order. You may have one code, you might have multiple codes. It just depends on how you ordered. Okay, so we are working with the Labeled with Love bundle, and this is in the annual catalog, and it is on page 58, and it is one of those new types of bundles they offered this time where you can either choose to get the die, which is what I got, and you get 3 of these dies. I just brought one over, and it actually works to cut out this particular shape. But you can also get it with the punch. That's an option too. Maybe you don't have a cut and emboss machine. You're just getting started. This would be a great one. This is a workhorse of a label. So if you don't have a machine and you just don't have the funds to get it right now, this is a really great one I would recommend for your stash. But there are a lot of fun things in this set. You have a basic to from for tags. You have happy birthday. You have these flowers with the leaves. They fit together. You have small presents. You have a large package that you can stamp some like a confetti type thing on it. You have the butterfly images. We're going to use that butterfly today. And then you have some other greetings. So this is just a really nice set, especially if you are just beginning out. But don't discredit it if you are a seasoned stamper because you can do a lot with it. We are going to do some embossing today. We're actually going to do 2 different types of embossing. And first of all, the thing that you have to have is your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Mine is a little, well loved. My plates are a little bit scraped up and whatnot. But it comes with these different types of not attachments, but pieces. So you have your base, and you would put your handle on when it arrives, and this is your main plate. And so that is what you are going to put in this way, but this is always on there. And this is plate 1. And it's going to tell you you are going to use this for die cutting, and then you are going to use it for embossing folders. So it is going to tell me for embossing folders, we have two types. We have 3D embossing folders, which give you a deeper, crisper image. And then we have regular embossing folders. So it tells us if you are going to use a regular embossing folder, you use plate 1, and then you use 2 of plate 3. They're all numbered for you. Today, we are going to do some dry embossing with an embossing folder, but it is a 3D, so we are going to use plate number 4. So we are just going to put this in our machine, and we are going to take the eyelet 3D embossing folder and a piece of basic beige cardstock. This is that new neutral color. I really, really like it. And so we open up our embossing folder, and we're just going to put this paper in. And a lot of times if I'm embossing something, I will line it up with this line, and you want this Stampin' Up logo facing up, but I don't want it to go that far up into the hinge. I want this to catch that pattern there. So you're just going to be able to eyeball it with that pattern that's on there. You always want to put your hinge in first on your embossing folder, because otherwise you could crack it. And then you are going to put your gray plate 4 with it, and then you are going to hold on to it. You always want to hold one hand up here as you roll it through. For me, it's going to keep it from jiggling so much on camera, but it's just a great way to, you don't want to pinch your fingers in here. There's something like 500 pounds of pressure going on in there, and you don't want your fingers in there. So now that has come through, and you can see how pretty that is. I'll lift this up a little closer so maybe you can see it. And this is the eyelet 3D folder. So we're going to put this aside for a minute, and we are going to change up what we refer to as our sandwich. So whenever we are going to emboss, or not emboss, but die cut, we need to put 1 down and 2 down, and then you'll have 2 of number 3. I like to keep 1, and this one's getting about to the point where I need to replace it, and I'll move it to a bottom one, but you can kind of see here it's marred. That pressure is great, so it presses up into that clear plate. But if you let that get really nasty, it can make really bad marks on your cards or your cardstock, depending on what you're cutting. So we have to cut 2 pieces, and these are from the Nested Essentials. And I want to, this one here only cuts out on this edge, not on this edge. So we have to put 2 together to make a frame. And I am going to use my Post-it note tape. And this is just a 4 by 5 1/4 sheet that I had laying around. You wouldn't need that big of a sheet to cut this out, but you just kind of want to get this centered in here. So this is how you die cut. You put the smooth side of your die up this way, and the side that's going to cut down in towards your paper. And I know for some of you that is redundant, but we want to include our new stamping friends because we all have so much more fun together. And so you just lay the second clear plate on top of here. And I like to kind of hold mine until it gets started. Then we put that up here and crank that through. And because we used that Post-it note tape, it kept that from shifting around. So I will save this for use on another card. but that gives us this really fun frame. But I want to have an inside to that frame. So I'm going to take this largest one, just all by itself. And since I'm not putting it around an image or something like that, I don't need to take this down. I don't always do my die cutting on camera, but every once in a while I like to do that just for our new friends. And then so that gives us this piece with that nice stitching around it. And so I have some pieces of cardstock here for heat embossing. That is what we're going to start with here now. It's a different type of embossing. The dry embossing puts an image down into your paper. This puts it on top of it. And so we have what they call the Embossing Essentials Toolkit or something like that. It comes with a couple different things. But what I'm going to use today are the tweezers, the reverse tweezers, the tray, and the embossing buddy. There is a screw lid to this, and so that keeps things from rolling out. However, I dropped mine, and I think one of my cats got it before I did, and so we're kind of on a little search for that. But it is still useful nonetheless. Let's start by taking this embossing buddy. What this does is it reduces the static. It will help to keep the oils from your finger from attracting some of our embossing powder. And so you might be able to see it here a little bit if you kind of start. It looks like powder here, just like baby powder or something. But I just start by shaking a little bit of that out. And we're going to put a greeting on this one. On this one, I only need to really do this lower portion. And on this is the envelope. You want to make sure your envelope is facing the way you want it to. And we're going to do that. And then I'm just going to do some general stamping on here. And so we'll just do a good chunk of that. We're going to use our butterfly stamp and this Just For You stamp. And we have an ink called Versamark. And what that is it's just really a foam pad with glue, kind of a special glue on it. We have different colors of embossing powder. And I used clear embossing powder the last time, and I wanted it over red. And so that stained my pad, but it doesn't hurt anything. I have an older jar. They switch suppliers of our embossing powder, but it doesn't matter. It will work just the same. The packaging just looks different. And so you just want to unscrew that. Some people prefer to keep this in a Tupperware container. For me, this takes up a lot less space to store it, and so that's how I like to do mine. I want to start with this greeting. And this stamp is photopolymer, so I do want to use my pad. Let me just slide everything up here so we can get this on camera better. I want to use my Stampin' Pierce mat, tap this in the glue just like always, and then I am just going to come in here. I could do it off to the side a little bit better, but I just want to be able to show you this. And we're going to be die cutting this, so we have to fit a die on here. Now, you just kind of tap off the excess. I always kind of put the powder on it more than one time, just so that if you've missed a spot, that you can give it another chance to grab hold and adhere on there. I film somewhere different from where I craft, but on my craft desk, I just have a really old paintbrush that I keep in my pen container over there. And I use it to brush away these excess, because you just have to be careful that you only brush it away from where you don't want it. And I'm not really sure why that has a little marring on it, but sometimes if you get just a little tiny piece, you can also take the end of your pick tool and get kind of close to something if you really need to. It doesn't generally bother me if I have a little tiny fleck here or there. It just, if it's a real mess, then I try to clean it up, or sometimes I will just start all over again. Now, you don't want to knock this powder off, so I'm just going to put this up here out of the way. We're going to go to our next piece. And this is that 4 by 5 1/4 piece. And we're just going to put that on there, give it a couple minutes, or not minutes, but a couple seconds. You can scoop it on, you can sprinkle it on, whatever you like to do. So you can see that didn't get all up in the corner of that one image. So that's why I always like to go over it a time or two, especially with black. All right. And then up here where we didn't sprinkle, I'm just going to take my hand and run it across there just to be safe. We are going to, and you know, I've changed my mind on the envelope. I don't think that I am going to heat emboss it. I think that I am just going to stamp that in black, and I'll do that here in a minute. I just think that the embossing could hang up in the machine, and so I don't want to do that and have it be damaged in the mail. We need 3 butterflies. While I've got the mess out, I'm going to just go ahead and I am going to do 4, just in case one doesn't turn out quite like we want. Then we have options. Again, bringing this over, sprinkling this around. And you probably can't see that glue on the white on camera, but especially when you turn it with some lights on, you can definitely see it when you're working with it. But this is just another fun way to just do something a little bit different with your crafting. I especially do love this for Christmas cards. I'm just going to be very honest about that. We have metallic powders, and I think that they make your Christmas cards just jump. Okay, so let me grab this. See up here, I see a little bit that I don't love, and sometimes you just have to shake it loose just a little bit. Kind of just give it a look-see. I'm going to try to get that a little bit better. It stuck where, and it does that. It'll stick where you don't want it and not necessarily stick where you do. Same way with the corner of this one. Let's just get that one a little bit heavier as well. Wonderful. And we're going to be cutting these out. So as long as it's back away from there, we are good. And just set this here. I'll be back in just a minute because you do want to clean this up, because we're going to heat this up, and you don't want to inadvertently heat something that you don't want. But this tray, then you can just it just sifts it back down into here for the most part. You get a couple little pieces here and there because I wasn't being careful. But it keeps keeps the mess at bay and keeps you from wasting product. Now, I just have our heat tool. It has two settings. 0 is off, 1 is low, and 2 is high, and you need to use 2 for the heat embossing. And I just have a ceramic tile that I bought at Lowe's just to keep things on or to emboss over so I don't hurt my surface. Now, these pieces I'm doing today, I really don't need this because they're larger pieces, but if you're doing something really small, this is a good thing to have. So here's our heat gun. I'm going to turn it on. I have already preheated this a little bit, so I'm not starting out with a cold gun. It works better if you have the time to preheat it just a little bit first. You can scorch your paper if you want to move it around a little, but you don't want to be all like waving it and waving this paper everywhere or this powder everywhere. So we're going to watch, and you can see it looks like a powder, but it is going to turn shiny, and that's when you know that it's melting. I like to do mine underneath, at least at first. To kind of warm it up just a little bit. But I'm going to put it down. And this tile also is going to absorb some of that heat, and so it will help it emboss a little faster too. You see there, you can see it's puffing up and it's getting shiny. I wanted to do this one first because, as I pointed out, we are going to die cut this. And so you want to have this have a chance to dry, set up, all of those things, cool. Because if you put it in your die cutting machine and you put this between those two clear plates, it's going to smash it. So it would flatten it and it would put indentations in it. So that's why I wanted to make sure and do this one first. Now let's take this inside piece. Again, I'm going to hit this underneath just a little bit. And the angle just isn't right here at this desk for it, but I generally never do mine on top. There we go. And now you see this is curled just a little bit, this paper. This is another good use for your heat tool, is if you just hit it a little bit on the opposite side, it'll straighten that back out. And so here we go. Just gonna warm this up. Moving it along. And then, like I say, just take it underneath and it will kind of flatten that back out. That paper out, not your embossing. So, super fun. Now the stamp set, you could just stamp these in black, and then there is also a inside piece that you can stamp the color on the butterfly. I just decided I wanted to use my blends and I wanted to do embossing. And so We aren't going to necessarily color all of them together since we spent so much time on the embossing, but I wanted to show you a little bit of how I colored them. This is the colors I'm using are Fresh Freesia. It is dark, I believe. No, light Calypso Coral. I have Pool Party. Yes, both light and dark. And then I have the light and dark in Petal Pink. So I am just going to, now that this has dried, I can feel this is dry, and I want to use my dark ones on the inside. There is no right or wrong. I think butterflies are wonderful, happy little creatures, and we can make them be super colorful. So this card is kind of a little more muted tones today. But I did the dark on the inside. And then the light on the outside. And you can just play with this to get the hues and tones of your butterflies the way you want. Now, I must have caught a little piece that wasn't quite embossed or heated through. I must have got some powder. So just try to stay back off those lines if that happens to you. And just work your way around your butterfly. You can either color in those dots or leave them white. I think either is fine. Now I am probably going to let this just dry and get a little happy for a few minutes. Now with the blends, if you let them dry in between layers, then you can build color. If you want to blend them, they work sometimes better if you leave them a little wet and you keep continuing to add color. But say you don't love that, just take a darker color marker. I'm going to go out here with my dark. I'm going to kind of flip it. And I am going to just add that darker. I could also bring in another color altogether that's darker. That's the fun thing with blends. You can just really play with making your own colors and all the things. And that kind of helps camouflage that just a little bit. I wouldn't let that stop me from using this image or this piece here. Meaning if you wanted to do it again, you could. I just don't think I quite had the right angle whenever I was doing it to see it as well as I do when I'm just creating on my own. But that is this, and I would just keep kind of going and adding color as I wanted to. And I already have one done here. I did the darker on this one on the outside to start with and the lighter on the inside. So see, it really doesn't matter. It's just whatever you're in the mood to color. And then just to show you real quickly, I did one the exact same way for the purple. I did one that's kind of in the coral family, and so I did a little of the dark Calypso on the outside, and if they all meld together, that's just a little bit extra bonus. It just makes them really super pretty. I love using my Stampin' blends. Then I think I don't even remember what order I did these all in, but I just kind of used my light petal pink in the inside. And laid that down. And like I say, I just must not have got all of my little bits and pieces heat embossed. You can always run your hand over it after it's dry. I mean, carefully. It would tell you for sure if it rubs off you didn't get it, and then you'd be kind of messed up. But that is one way to tell. Put some dark petal pink in here. Oh, and see, I just don't like that at all. I don't know what is happening there, but we're just going to abort mission on that one. And that's why I did an extra one, just because I had that happen a couple times. I might need to replace my embossing powder. That it might be a little older, and that might be a possibility. But you can see how I did that one there. I am just going to save a little time, since we spend so much time on the embossing. Here are 3 that I already had colored, and there are no dies for these, so you just need to fussy cut, which means you just use your paper snips, your little scissors, and you just cut around. You've seen me do that several times before, but this is how I did it, and I just used the dark, looks like on the outside of this one, the light, but the reverse is fine too. You can do it either way, and it's really fine. But I'll probably hit those again with my heat tool, just since it seemed to happen more than one time, and the other ones will be fine. But I just wanted to save some time and have these cut out anyway and show those to you. And just to show you too, I went in and I just stamped that butterfly. I embossed some fresh freesia cardstock again with that eyelet embossing folder. You use 2.5 by 6 inches, and then you just put glue on your flap of your envelope, and you just cut around it with your scissors, and that's how you do that too. So we have those 2 parts to go, or we have those already done. Okay, now we just have bits and pieces. I went ahead and scored and folded our card base, and I put our little insert with our butterfly in there. And then let's just build this up. When you're adding things that are dry embossed, I like to use liquid glue. You want to keep it back off the sides a little bit, but you want to be pretty generous with it because you want it to get in those grooves, but you don't want it to like squish out all over your card either. Like I say, I can do better if I turn it this way, and hopefully this is in view. And that's why too, it just gives you that little wiggle room that you need sometimes. Just give it a little back rub. Well, I guess I had a little glue on my hand. We use our little gum eraser from Amazon. Get that right off there. Also, that's another good use for the embossing buddy. Sometimes if you have a little stick to something, you just rub it off over there, and it takes that stick out. Even if you can't get it off, it will at least take the stick off. But these are pretty great little erasers. It's like, I don't know, $5 less, definitely under 10. And so we'll just bring this over. And I want to put this on here. And now there are a couple ways we could assemble this. I could have used an adhesive sheet on the back of this basic white cardstock, and that would have probably been the best thing to do, and just peeled it then like a sticker. Those are available on my online store. I just tend to forget about them until after the fact. So we used to sell, this is just like a sea sponge, and we used to sell these. I just clipped a little piece off of it. You can get these on Amazon. I wish they would bring them back for us. But I just put some of that Tombow out, and now hold it still so it doesn't move, because you don't want to drag your clean white cardstock through someplace that you've gotten glue down on your mat. And you know, might need to put a little, it's kind of dry. My sponge soaked up a lot of that. It's just tricky on this one because you don't want that glue to come out through the holes on your cardstock. But we're just going to take it. And then if you have like a fine tip glue bottle or something that you want to, if it doesn't tack down the way you want, you can always put a little bit like on the end of your take your pick tool and kind of scoot in there. But that gets it nice and together for you there. So we are going to need some dimensionals and also some mini dimensionals. We're just going to take this one and put some dimensionals on it. And then also, because this is going against that embossed cardstock, even though it's the foam that kind of melds to that a little bit, I am going to hit it with a little bit of glue just to A, give us some slide room, and B, whoa, that's a lot of glue. B, it would get in those cracks and crevices, and then when it dries, it will really hold on there. And so you can just put this wherever you like. I kind of did mine a little bit closer to the top than the bottom. And then I just kind of laid out things the way I wanted. I wanted this to come out over. And I kind of liked this one, and like this one, and this one. I kind of like them in that order. So I'm going to start by putting this one down. Greeting is just going to go on flat. We didn't need to worry about putting it on the very end of that just because it's not going to be touching anything. I could have put a dimensional on the end of that, but I think it'll be just fine. Now I want to use the mini dimensionals, and I think I can do better with this with my nails on. And I just want to put one dimensional right here. And I want to have this inside my circle, but kind of on the top of this. Let me scooch it over just a little bit. And then on this one, I want to put one dimensional here. And then I want to stack these two dimensionals over here. because that end is going to go off of that circle, and they don't need to be lined up perfectly or anything. And I'm probably not going to worry about putting glue on that one. I think it will stay adhered just fine. But I want it kind of over top this one and pointing in. So this also gives me the opportunity to kind of fool with this a little bit if I don't use the glue. And I must have forgot to take the backing off that one. I did. I was like, that is not sticking. And let's turn it that way a little bit better. And then for the purple one, when we flip it over, kind of right there in the center area, like on this side, I just want to take off that one and stack one there. And this one we're going to kind of tuck up under here, kind of close to that J and off to the side. Now, that one didn't quite hit enough off to the side, so I'm going to pull it over a little bit so that I don't have to take my dimensionals off. And I kind of like how that turned out. I love that little, and I've been doing a lot of cards that are just for you or kind of generic because I don't know how necessarily I want to use that card. And so I think that that is just super cute. Now it has one more thing. The rainbow adhesive back dots are super fun. And I want to add some. Let's do one here. Let's do a larger purple one, maybe in here. Won't push those down till I see how I like where they line up. Just thought these were such pretty colors together. I love this basic beige. It is rapidly becoming one of my very favorite neutrals. And let's do another one. Let's do one of these. And maybe, let's do up here. Super fun. So just for you. And then we have our envelope that goes with it this way. Or just as a little accent color, I did it with the fresh freesia instead of the basic beige. But I love that one. Now here's where I started. I wanted to do, I've had some new stampers lately, and so I wanted to do some things that were a little less complicated. And so I did this one. And I just took that little stamp of 3 presents and I just made my own designer series paper. I used one of the banner dies, and then I just even cut it down a little bit smaller. I just didn't want it quite that wide, and I used 2 circle punches on that one and used some of our white. It's the white with the diagonals on it. And then I just did one of the presents and cut it out, the bigger ones, and it could be for all kind of different things, just a little happy for somebody, birthday, whatever. And this one, I wanted to use the label dies. And so this is kind of, I started, I think here, this might have been my second one. I noticed my ink pad was really juicy, so I didn't love how that stamped, but I did this as a note card, and I took that, it's the thicker white ribbon. I I guess it's the same as this. And I just colored it with the Stampin' Blend. I think it's Shaded Spruce. And I would say this is Peach Pie. And I didn't put anything in the inside. And I didn't even make an envelope yet. So I really just kind of got into this and just played. And then the card we made together today is where I landed. I'm going to be very honest. I don't know how I feel about this one. This is a happy birthday one. Highland Heather, Coastal Cabana, Boho Blue. And then this is some of that white shimmery paper from the Zinnias. And I just decided we have this curly ribbon. I wanted to try to use it, and I thought it kind of looked like birthday streamers coming out of there. I may end up taking it off and just removing it. I'm not sure, because in the amount of time from when I did these till I'm filming them, some time had passed, and they were really nice and curly, but now that's relaxed a little bit, and I just don't know that I love it. So that might come apart. And put some of those little white sequins on there, and just did a double matte inside and 2 presents. So that one is fun. I will probably take these, I'll photograph it with these on, and then I'm going to take them off. And you can let me know in the comments which one you like. And then I did 2 using the Full of Life paper. This is the Softly Said, I think is what Softly Said, Softly Spoken, something like that. Larger greetings. And I just use these dies and cut out some of that fun paper. It all just goes together, so fun. And then I popped this layer up, and then it top folds. I just used a little bit of that paper on the inside to spruce it up. This is just another Just Because card, because I'm not sure. And I've had some occasions where I've just needed to write a note and just needed to have a generic card. And then this one, use that same ribbon again. And this is the one from the set that is the hybrid embossing folder. Cannot think of the name of it right offhand. But again, I just made a pattern and just made another layer on white and popped that up and wrapped my ribbon around. And then I just created that little pattern. I continued that on into the inside. Thinking of you, because sometimes I think thinking of you, we think it's always a sad occasion, but it isn't necessarily so. So that's why I just went ahead and used those happy colors. So here are 5 cards using that stamp set. Here are my 3 favorite ones and my 2 not as favorite ones. I may end up restamping these. I can just snip those off because they're on dimensionals and just see if I can get my stamp pad. I'll use a spoon and see if I get it to be a little less juicy. I might like that better. And like I say, I think I will photograph this one with the streamers and then remove them. And I think once I remove them, I'm going to like this a whole lot and like it better. And of course, I really want to set a goal to send some cards this week, and I hope that you do the same thing, because we make these so that we can just fight the loneliness, send the love, send some happiness to those in our friends and family. Or you just may have heard somebody that needs a little pick-me-up, and just send them a little note too, to let them know that you're thinking about them. As always, remember to be kind, send a card, and do something creative. Bye-bye.